see me. Hi everybody, welcome back to the channel. I'm Brad, Lone Wolf, and as usual I am still setting up as I go live, which is always the way with me because I'm hopeless and useless. I'm not really. I am still setting up, that's true, that much is true. But because the tripod's not in a fixed location every time, I have to make sure everything's running perfectly. We will get started in a minute, and I will tell you all about today. Just getting my laptop switched over to Twitch. So again, doing some cooking today. And again, doing some cooking from Slimming World's diet recipes. Come on. Okay, so while that's all decided to flick over, today I'm going to be cooking a vegetarian gumbo. Got all the ingredients ready to go as usual. But the one thing I haven't done yet, I have not, as yet, filled the kettle up. Now, today's recipe does call for some vegetable stock, so it's not just, I'm not just putting the kettle on for some tea. Now, I'm not even going to question today. Today is, it's a mega mug day. It's been one of those days today. So mega mug it is, and also I need to put the stock in for the stock. Now, this recipe is, I believe it's a sin-free recipe. This one, it might be sin-free or it might be 1.5. No, it actually is a free. Sin-free meal, this one, so I can do as much of this as I like. It does call for 200 millilitres of stock, but I'm going to put a little bit more in. I usually do when it comes to stock, but as usual I'm going to be doing it as I go along. I'm going to be chopping everything, I'm going to be cutting everything up as I go along. And okay, so chopping board. Now, the recipe calls for 1 large onion. I know I said in previous streams that I might be joined today by somebody else. That actually hasn't happened. So again, for now, it's just me cooking for me, basically. So, recipe calls for 1 onion. This is a recipe for 4 people, so obviously I'm going to quarter that as usual. Saying that, did I? No, I didn't. I threw it away. That's alright. Obviously started rotting. So I only need 1/4 of an onion in this case. For those of you that don't watch my YouTube channel, I did do a weigh-in on Monday. I haven't gained any weight, but I haven't lost any weight. So a bit of a win-win there. Skin on that. And as usual, I'm using the garlic puree because I'm far too lazy to onion myself. Onion? It's not onion, it's garlic. Anyway, kettle's boiled. And there's fluid ounces. I want millilitres, which is there. 200, just over 200. A little bit more, just so it doesn't dry out. Okay, and add the onion and garlic till soft. Add the spice mix. Right. Now this recipe says it's going to take about 40 minutes. As usual, I don't think it will. I think it will take probably around about 20, but that is purely and utterly because I'm cooking for myself. Right, so while that's heating up, I'm going to get the celery and everything else ready. Celery, carrots. Celery needs to be roughly chopped. Just put it that way because that looks a bit nasty. Celery, carrots also need to be cut into small chunks. Now it calls for 2 carrots, so obviously I'm only using half a carrot today. And the other half, as usual, I'll probably eat while we're waiting for the rest of the recipe to cook. Right. And passata. Now it calls for, the recipe calls for 400 grams of passata. Again, it's only me, so I'm only going to need a quarter of that, which is what, 125. Right. Wok is just about ready. In goes the onion, and in goes the garlic. Bit of garlic in there. Happens, something like that normally happens. Right. So the onion's been cooking. The onion and garlic been cooking for a little while. I'm going to add in the spice mix, which is Creole or Cajun. There's only about enough left for what they're asking for. Anyway, actually, there's a bit too much in there. Never mind. Just adds to the flavour after all. A quick stir. And then put the passata in there. Turn that down to low. And put the carrots and the celery in as well. Smoke out. Passata. I'm going to add a little bit of water into that just because it looks like it's starting to dry out. Don't want it dried out and burn in the pan after all. Right, while that's doing, the next step is to cook the rice. Now, I'm using basmati rice today. Not that that should come as any surprise, to be honest. and the recipe calls for 150 grams. So again, I've quartered that, which brings it down to 32.5 grams. So I've got 34 grams in here, ready to go. And again, I'm not adding any salt to that. Never add any salt to the rice. That's just my personal preference. I personally think we've got far too much salt in our diets anyway. And I appear to have a fly in here. Fantastic. Right. And obviously, not being a professional kitchen or anything like that, I haven't got one of them bug zappers, so I just have to keep an eye on the fly. Milk, soya milk, obviously. I'm not lactose or intolerant or anything. It's just, again, personal preference for soya milk. When I've been on expeditions in the past, I normally take Earl Grey with me. Not because I'm posh or anything like that, but Earl Grey is one of the few teas you can actually drink palatably. Without milk. Yeah, it's a little bit more expensive, but I tend to, like I say, don't tend to need milk with Earl Grey. Again, it's just personal preference. Yeah, we can, yeah, those beans. While the rice is cooking, I'm going to start on the rest of this. Right, the peppers. Cut into chunks, right. Recipe calls for 1 yellow pepper and 1 red pepper. Yes, I know that's orange, but it's the closest to red I've got. When I lived and worked in Australia as an outdoor instructor, yellow peppers, or yellow capsicums as they call them out there, is a very rare commodity. You can get green ones, you can get red ones, yellow peppers, yellow capsicums, like I say, that's what they call them out there. It's almost like they don't exist. When I was living out there, I actually had a friend who went. They actually purposely, because I mentioned this to them, and I was missing, for some reason I was craving yellow peppers. I don't know why. They actually specifically went into Melbourne to get one for me. I'll never forget that. I was sat in my accommodation. They knocked on the door, walked in, speaking to them, and they just produced this yellow pepper. That was just one of the nicest things anybody's ever done. I know it sounds strange, but to go 60, 70 miles out of your way just to get a yellow pepper. Anyway, I digress. I'm probably going to add the whole lot to the recipe. I might as well. I don't think I'm using peppers for anything else this week. This will be where I find out actually yes I am. But it's okay because I can just nip to the shop if I have to. Right. Okra. really know how to feel about okra. Sometimes it's nice, sometimes I like it, sometimes I'm kind of but it's strange. I don't really know how to describe okra. It's definitely one of those things you either like it or you hate it. And I kind of go through weird phases of both, really. Unlike Marmite, which is the devil's food. So that's been simmering for 10 minutes. I'm going to add the pepper, okra and beans. Right. In goes the okra, in goes the pepper. And the stock. Should have added the rice straight to this, to be honest. Oh well, never mind. Right. And just because I'm a little bit odd, people who know me will say yes, he is. The spring onion is supposed to go in at the end, but I'm going to put it in now. Just because I'm odd and different. Today we are eating, or we're cooking, vegetable gumbo. So, shouldn't take too much longer, to be fair. And welcome Amy. So got the rice on the go. The rice on the go. I was just saying, just before you came in, should really put the rice in straight with the gumbo, but it is what it is. We've got the rice going on a separate pan now. So yeah, it is what it is. So, oh yes, beans. I forgot to put the beans in. Oh no. Canelli beans. I only need about a quarter of a tin of these. These beans, I can never get the pronunciation right, but those beans. I'm not going to butcher the name, so I'll just say those beans, because I know what I mean. Quick wash, quick dry, and in they go. I only need a quarter of them, and give them a quick stir. And today's mug, because it's been one of them days, is the mega mug. Right. Put that in there so the bin men don't cut their fingers off. So awkward having been behind the camera, but it is what it is. You've got to work with what you've got. Right. Passata in the fridge. Canela beans in the fridge. Right, and while that's stewing, get the water. Oh, hello. peppercorn straight in the bin. And while that's doing, I'm going to get the bowl ready for washing up. Not that I'm going to subject anybody to me washing up, because that would be boring. Oh, I just created more washing up for myself. Idiot. Should have done the beans in that rather than the other colander, but oh well. Nobody to blame but myself. Just had a whiff of all the spices that came out of that, and that's good. Let's get some pepper in there. So this is, as I say, this is a Slimming World recipe. So, and it's a free meal. So no sins involved, which is good, because I think after the events of today I'm going to need all the sins I need over the evening. Right, drain the rice. Starch. Straight in there. Right. Now that is more or less done, but I am just going to wait for some of the liquid to evaporate off before I serve it up. So while that happens, I am going to subject it to the most boring part of cooking, which is the washing up. But it shouldn't take me too long, because after all it is only me. As usual, all the washing up's piled up on that side, because anything piled up behind me tends to get forgotten. And I have got the room on the right hand side of the sink. But by the time I've done this, the gumbo should be cooked. There'll be some people that will say it's not a proper gumbo because it hasn't been stewed for hours and hours and hours. Yeah, fair enough. There'll also be some people that say it's not a proper gumbo because it doesn't contain chicken and fish. Well, no, it's not going to. Not this version anyway. Now I will dry these up, as I've said in the past many times. When it comes to health and safety, or official health and safety policy in a domestic kitchen, they can go screw themselves. So when I dry up, I will be using a tea towel. But I'm not going to do that just yet. I'm going to wait until after I've done dinner for two reasons. One, I'm lazy. And two, there's going to be another 3 things to wash up, which will be my mug, the wok, and whatever bowl I use to serve my dinner. To be honest though, looking at this, I quartered all the ingredients, I quartered everything, but there's enough here for 2, which honestly it is a free meal, so you know, there's no harm, no real harm if I ate it all. I'm not going to, I'm going to save some, I'm probably going to freeze some. Actually no, it's got rice, so I'm not going to freeze any. I'll do something with it. Right. Make sure we get some of the rice in there. That does look good. Right. So, see if I can display this.